Here is something that will genuinely surprise you. Right now, as you watch this, there is nearly a 1 in 2 chance that your mind is somewhere else entirely. Not here, not present. Researchers at Harvard discovered that the average human mind wanders away from what it is doing almost half of the time. And during those moments of mental drift, people consistently report feeling worse, more anxious, more unsettled, more disconnected from their own lives. That is not a small finding. That is a quiet crisis happening inside millions of minds every single day. Now, here is what makes this even more striking. The solution does not require a gym membership, a prescription, or an hour of your morning. According to some of the most rigorous clinical research published in the last decade, just 5 minutes a day, done consistently, begins to physically change your brain. It reduces markers of systemic inflammation. It shifts your nervous system. It even alters your gut microbiome. And most people who could benefit from this have never tried it, or tried it once, got it completely wrong, and never went back. Every video on this channel gives you what science actually says about your health. Subscribe so you never miss one. Today, I want to walk you through what the science actually says and why everything most people believe about meditation is holding them back from one of the most powerful health tools available. Let us start with the most damaging myth in this entire field, because if you have ever tried meditation and quit within a week, this is almost certainly why. Most people sit down, close their eyes, and immediately try to stop thinking. They try to create silence in their mind. They aim for peace, stillness, and calm. And within 30 seconds, a thought arrives about work, about dinner, about something someone said 3 days ago. And they think, I am doing this wrong. I am bad at this. This is not for me. Here is what the science says. That moment, that exact moment when the thought arrives and you notice it, is not failure. That is the meditation working. Researchers at the University of Wisconsin have spent decades studying what actually happens inside the brain during effective meditation. The goal is not to clear the mind, it is to observe the mind, to notice when attention has drifted and gently redirect it. Every single time you do that, every time you catch the wandering thought and bring your focus back, you are performing a mental repetition. You are training a specific neural circuit. You are building something. Think of it this way. When you do a bicep curl, the moment of resistance, the burn, the difficulty, is precisely what creates the adaptation. Without that struggle, there is no growth. Meditation works the same way. The uncomfortable thought that interrupts your focus is not the obstacle. It is the weight you are lifting. Now let us talk about the biology, because this is where things become remarkable. A research team published findings from a series of randomized controlled trials, the gold standard in medical research, studying what happens when complete beginners meditate for just 5 minutes a day over 30 days. Not an hour, not even 15 minutes. 5. The results were significant across multiple systems simultaneously. Participants showed measurable reductions in self-reported symptoms of depression, anxiety, and chronic stress. Their scores on well-being assessments improved. But what caught the attention of researchers was something deeper, something happening at the cellular level. IL-6 dropped. If you are not familiar with IL-6, it is a pro-inflammatory cytokine, a chemical signal your immune system releases that drives systemic inflammation throughout the body. Elevated IL-6 is associated with heart disease, type 2 diabetes, accelerated aging, and a long list of chronic conditions that affect millions of adults worldwide. And after 28 days of 5-minute daily meditation sessions, blood markers for IL-6 showed a statistically significant reduction. 5 minutes, 28 days. inflammation going down. And that was not all. The same research group documented changes in the gut microbiome, the community of bacteria in your digestive system that influences everything from immune function to mood to metabolic health. Changes that most people would associate with weeks of dietary intervention began appearing from a simple daily mental practice. But that is only part of the picture. What happens inside the brain itself is even more extraordinary. In 2004, a team of neuroscientists published a paper in one of the most prestigious scientific journals in the world. They had brought a group of long-term meditators into a lab, practitioners whose average lifetime meditation experience exceeded 30,000 hours, and they measured their brain activity using electroencephalography, which tracks electrical oscillations in the brain. What they saw stopped them in their tracks. These meditators were producing gamma waves, a specific frequency of brain activity associated with insight, heightened awareness, and integration of information across brain regions, at amplitudes so high they were visible to the naked eye on the raw data printout. This is genuinely unusual. These waves were not just present during meditation, they persisted. They had become a baseline feature of how these brains operated. Now, 30,000 hours is not a realistic target for most of us. But here is what subsequent research revealed. You do not need 30,000 hours for measurable brain changes to begin. Studies with beginners showed structural and functional shifts after just weeks of consistent daily practice. The brain is not a fixed organ. It is responsive, it is adaptive, and it responds to what you repeatedly ask it to do. There is a concept in neuroscience that explains why consistency matters far more than perfection, and it is one of the most useful frameworks for understanding how any habit shapes health over time. Scientists distinguish between a mental state and a mental trait. A state is temporary. It is how you feel during and immediately after a meditation session. Calm, focused, present. A trait is permanent. It is who you become when that state repeats often enough that it rewires your baseline. One researcher described it this way: the after is the before for the next during. The person you are after today's session is the person you start as tomorrow. And if you repeat that often enough, the temporary becomes permanent. This has profound implications for health. Frequent short bouts of calm, regulated nervous system activity, done daily, gradually lower the threshold at which your body triggers its stress response. Over weeks and months, the trait of anxiety begins to soften. The trait of reactivity becomes less dominant. This is not motivation or willpower. This is neurobiology. And here's what this means practically. A perfect 20-minute session once a week does far less for your brain than a messy, distracted 5-minute session every single morning. Not all meditation is the same, and choosing the wrong type for where you are right now can be the difference between building a lasting habit and abandoning it after 10 days. Research groups have broadly divided meditation practices into two categories. The first is focused attention meditation, where you narrow your awareness onto a specific object, your breath, a sound, a physical sensation. The intention is to keep your attention there, notice when it wanders, and bring it back. This is the mental equivalent of a single joint exercise, precise, deliberate, targeted. The second type is open monitoring meditation. Here, there is no single point of focus. The aperture of your awareness opens wide. You allow whatever arises, sounds, thoughts, sensations, emotions, to arise and pass without judgment and without trying to change it. The invitation is simply to be aware, to shift, as researchers describe it, from a mode of doing to a mode of being. For most beginners, starting with focused attention is more accessible. Anchor yourself to 5 breaths. Count them. Notice when you lose count. Start again. That is a complete, effective, evidence-based practice. You do not need an app, a cushion, or a special room. And one important finding that surprises most people: it does not matter whether you sit still or move. Studies have confirmed that for beginners, the health benefits of formal seated meditation and informal active meditation, practiced while walking, doing dishes, or commuting, are statistically comparable. The variable that matters is consistency, not posture. The question most people ask next is a practical one. When should I do it, and what will I actually feel? Research suggests that meditating when you are most alert rather than most drowsy produces stronger results for beginners. The common instinct is to meditate at night to wind down before sleep. And while a calm pre-sleep practice has real benefits, sleepiness is one of the primary obstacles to effective meditation. Mornings, for most people, offer the cleanest window. 10 breaths upon waking, before you check your phone, before you sit up, before you plan the day, is one of the most accessible starting points available. It requires no timer, no preparation, and no disruption to your routine. 10 slow, deliberate breaths with your attention anchored to the physical sensation of each one. That is your baseline. That is your foundation. From there, studies consistently recommend asking yourself one question. What is the minimum amount of time I can realistically commit to every single day for 30 days? Not the ideal amount, the minimum. Whatever that number is, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, that is your target. Because a modest practice done every day produces dramatically superior outcomes compared to an ambitious practice done occasionally. After 30 days, something shifts. Most people report not a dramatic transformation, but a quieter one, a slightly shorter fuse on stress responses, a marginally faster recovery after a difficult moment, a gentle but unmistakable sense that the internal noise has turned down a notch. That is the trait beginning to form. Every tool discussed in this video is free. It requires no equipment, no prescription, and no prior experience. The research is not preliminary. It is published, replicated, and clinically meaningful. 5 minutes a day for 30 days. Reduced inflammation, reduced anxiety, measurable brain change. The question is not whether this works. The science on that is settled. The question is whether you will do it consistently enough for the state to become the trait. Here is your challenge. Tomorrow morning, before you open your phone, before you begin your day, take 5 deliberate breaths. Notice each one. When your mind wanders, and it will, simply notice it and return. That is it. That is the entire practice. And if you do it every morning for the next 30 days, you will not be the same person at the end of it. If this video gave you something useful, share it with someone in your life who needs it. And if you are ready to go deeper into how your brain and body work together to protect your long-term health, the next video is already waiting for you. Take care of yourself. I will see you in the next one.